I need to fix my welder. It's an old white face Millermatic 200 MIG Welder. I believe it's a 1979 model. In my skid steer bucket video, I had a bunch of problems with it. I was getting nasty bubbly welds, and I found a big hole in the gas hose. I don't know how long it's been like that, but I don't imagine that it just happened. Also, every once in a while the wire will stick in the tip, and if I don't have the roller tension set just right, it balls up the wire in the wire feeder and makes a big mess. A lot of people also commented that it didn't sound right when I was welding. I think that's mostly an interference issue with my microphone. The welder makes a lot of nasty electrical noise and it causes cracking and popping. It's also just really noisy, and it's above the maximum sound threshold, so the camera's always clipping off the audio. It kind of makes it sound like you're underwater. So I'm not too worried about that, but the wire sticking issue is a problem, and I think I know how to fix it. We're gonna have to throw some parts at it. This welder is old school. To change from high range to low range, you have to move an actual plug on the front panel. And I think the problem is these plugs. This is the low range plug. You can see it's fine. This is the high range plug, and it is pretty well melted. The threads have pulled out. The washer's kind of melted. There's no way this was making a good connection. I went ahead and bought all new plugs and sockets for the high range, low range, and the ground. I don't know if she's gonna go. Man, that is tricky. The instructions tell you to put the welding cable in a vise to do this, but that's not real handy for a field install. Pretty dang good. When I got this welder almost a decade ago, it did not have wheels. The tank tray that's on it is one that I made with some cheap casters from Harbor Freight, and it works fine, but a few years ago I actually found the original wheels and tray for this welder. So I'm going to go ahead and swap those out. It is a little bit shorter than the one I made, so I'll also have to replace the casters. I did find some from McMaster-Carr that are quite a bit heavier than the original Miller casters, which was kind of a weak point on these welders. I even got new hand grips. Oh, look at that. Fancy! Now that the welder's fixed, I need some better sawhorses. The ones I used in the skid steer bucket video were not adequate. To say the least. So I got this rectangular tube, 3 by 2. That would probably work pretty well. There's a piece of C-channel. Lots of square tube. Looks like 2-inch angle. I think that's 3/16. That one's probably 1/4. I think we can make something out of that. I don't think it's possible to make an interesting video about CAD modeling, so let's just skip to the finished design. I did some quick back of the envelope calculations, and I was surprised to find that the legs are actually the weak link. I thought it would be the top beam. Although now that I think about it, the flat parts are cut from 11 gauge, 3mm steel. I did change my mind on the feet and I had to recut those. I didn't have quite enough angle iron. Luckily, hauling 20 footers is no problem when your truck is fully depreciated, like mine. I think we've got all the pieces. There's only 5 parts, but of course there's 8, 8, 8, 4, and 2. Yeah, let's start welding. I could have mitered the legs on the bandsaw, but it seemed easier just to cut them square and then cut the actual angle after they were assembled. This should also help keep our sawhorses from becoming rocking horses. Of course, any working horse needs to be shoed. I think they look pretty spiffy, but they'll look even more spiffy after we hit them with some Tuscan Sun. MIG sent me this laser almost a year ago, and they've been very patiently waiting for me to make a video about it, which I will do someday, but for now, here's my 10-second review. If you need a diode laser, this one works fine. The hardware is pretty solid. The MIG software is completely useless, as far as I can tell, but it does work with Lightburn and Laser Gerbil and whatever third-party software you want to use. That's what I do. It works great for cutting this blue painter's tape. Vinyl would probably be a better choice, but you can't cut vinyl on a laser. Something about chlorine gas being slightly deadly. We could cut it on my wife's Cricut, but that is a bear I would rather not poke. I'm starting with another coat of the base color. This should hopefully seal the tape and prevent the top color from bleeding around the edges. I actually learned this trick from guys who paint super realistic models of World War II airplanes, which is a fascinating little corner of the internet that I never thought I'd find myself in. Well, I never know when to pull the masking off. It's been about 45 minutes. Still a little tacky, but it's mostly dry. And we're gonna give it a shot. I welded, it helded. Of course, this bucket looks big, but that's only about 1/8 of their rated capacity. They should be good for, the pair should be good for 2 tons, centered or evenly distributed, if I did the math right. And that bucket only weighs about 1/4 ton. These things came out great. I will say though, if you're ever feeling good about your welds, just hit them with some high gloss yellow paint and see how long that feeling lasts. Max is not impressed. Little bleed right there. Pretty darn good though. They should be just about the same height as the plasma table, which is pretty handy. But the best feature is they're stackable. Now, trigger warning, you may want to go ahead and hover over that unsubscribe button. To make them stackable, I had to make one horse longer than the other. No, it's worse than that. I chose to make one horse longer than the other, so they are not a perfectly matched pair. Now, if for some strange reason you really want to build a pair of these Sawhorses, I will put the 3D models up on my Patreon page. You do not have to sign up, you do not have to pay anything. But a huge thanks to the guys that do. They make somewhat frivolous projects like this more possible. Now they're just 3D models, there's no plans, there's no detailed drawings. Also, I should say, if you build these, you are doing so at your own risk. Thanks for watching. This is why you always use protection. Pretty fierce, kiddo. Alright, go. This is what your shop looks like after cutting, grinding, deburring, and painting 200 of these logo plates.